My dad passed when I was 12. He was my coach and my best friend. So when he passed, I dove deep into weed and video games. Didn't have any success with women, didn't have any confidence. The first girl I ever dated comes up to the house crying, pretty much telling me she's going with this other dude that she's been talking to for a while. So I did not understand business. I transformed my life. I want to help other people. So I started putting out content. And the first guy I got on with at the end of the call, he's like, "What's your Venmo?" I made like double my pay for the day. I was like, something's like going on here. Anybody that's thinking about building a business, if you hung around other people that were doing that thing, it can happen for anybody if you really just stick to that.
Kyle, let's just start off with everyone who doesn't know about you. What is it you do and what do you help people do?
Yeah, I'm Kyle Froonjian. I coach men, mindset, confidence, communication, pickup, dating.
It seemed like you used to be super hard dating and now you're doing a little bit more other stuff, right?
That's definitely my main expertise, but I think as I've progressed from my late 20s into my mid 30s, I'm about to be 35. So I just found myself naturally expanding my teaching beyond just pickup. And I mean, really to have the most fulfilling dating life, in my opinion, you need these other areas of your life filled out too. So it's like, it kind of made sense, the direction I pivoted.
How did you get into that?
I guess I grew up very shy and antisocial. My dad passed when I was 12. And so I dove deep into weed and video games through my teenage years. Didn't have any success with women, didn't have any confidence. He was my coach and my best friend. So when he passed, I just closed off from that stuff. I never went back to the grave. I never talked about it. I never went to therapy. Just kind of like was really avoidant through my teens into my 20s. And then the first girl I ever dated ended up leaving me for another man when I was 24. So we dated from 20 to 24 and I just lost her. And that's when I was at rock bottom, confidence wise and pain wise too. So that's when I just started looking up like how to get your ex back online, because that's all I really wanted to do. Yeah. And that led me down this rabbit hole of like, oh, you can actually get better with your confidence and your communication and you can interact with strangers and you can meet women. There was like this whole art form and science to the whole thing, which was kind of weird for me at the time, growing up very antisocial and unconfident. So I just dove really deep into those things and I made a really big transformation throughout my 20s. And that's what, I mean, it changed my life so much to the point where I was like, I want to help other people with this stuff, you know? So that's really what got me into it. And then I then had to learn the whole other side of coaching and building a business and all this other side of it. You know what I'm saying?
In hindsight, I mean, that must have been pretty traumatic. Like at the time, a 4-year relationship ending that way.
Yeah.
In hindsight, are you glad it happened? Do you feel like it paved
ways for sure, for sure. Because even if it stayed together, like I just hadn't built myself up enough and was extremely complacent and underdeveloped, and it would have just led to this comfy, below average lifestyle. Yeah, you know.
So I just like try to pick a 4-year relationship ending like that is pretty intense.
It was on the rocks for a while, and then it was my birthday too. So she was coming over.
Oh man,
for a birthday out in New York City. So I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna go out, we're gonna make up. It's my birthday, we'll have sex, like everything's gonna be back to back. She comes up to the house crying, and is pretty much telling me she's going with this other dude that she's been talking to for a while. So that's when it was like,
oh man, bro.
Yeah, it was a lot of pain. But it was honestly, it was a good thing because like, had she not have went with this other man, I think there would have just been this what if kind of thing.
Right.
Now that was actually in the picture, it was like, honestly, like closure in a sense. It was pain, it was heart shattering, but it was also like a little bit of closure and allowed me to get over it because we were going back and forth for like a year leading up to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times development or growth will come from obviously some type of tragedy or something really bad. Yeah. So I'm curious on this side. This may be helpful for the listeners. You know, you've dated a lot. You help guys with dating. I'm curious, like, do you ever see any dynamic that works better? So, you know, some guys will have a million girlfriends. Some guys obviously are monogamous. Some guys are married and have girlfriends. I mean, like, is there anything that you've seen over time? You're like, these usually never work out, and this usually does work out, or like. What would be your main advice on guys if they're trying to date and like what they should be looking for or like what type of dynamic they should be getting into?
I'd say the best formula, if you want to call it that, is a man who has built himself up, who has dating experience. And through that experience, it doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be sexual with a lot of women, but I do think he needs to have some level of dating abundance for him to have a good understanding of what he wants and what he appreciates and what he doesn't really want in a relationship. And then from that dating experience and that abundant dating life, he could actually screen and qualify and connect with a girl long-term to set a good dynamic for a healthy relationship to be in place. That's, in my opinion, the best play.
Do you ever have any clients who like are trying to kind of juggle multiple balls at the same time?
Yeah,
do you ever see it done very successfully? Or I'm just curious for the listeners, like
in terms of like long, are you saying like long
yeah,
term?
like I guess like yeah. So I guess everything from the standpoint of like in the long run, does it work out, or do people always go away from it? Or
I would say majority of men, despite what they've told me initially, I think majority of men, if they could really have it, it would be having a lot of sexual experiences and having dating abundance, but then ultimately down the line, once they've experienced that enough, find a quality partner that they could genuinely connect with and like have a life with.
Having the options is great, but I think it's almost like the stress and the emotions and all the stuff that goes with it, right? Because like if you're talking to this girl or that girl or something like that, I was just curious on your standpoint on that. So
I would also say one other thing is that I think, and there's nothing in my opinion wrong with that if that's like genuinely what you want, but I think for someone to go and experience that and just be in that extremely long term for decades on end, I feel like there's something in there pain wise, trauma wise, that's like creating that very long loop that's ongoing, like indefinitely.
So to me, it sounds like, and I would probably agree with you a bit, is like date around, meet a lot of girls. If you have that phase, have it, but then eventually mature out of it and get into maybe something more serious. Like, is that kind of your viewpoint?
Yeah, but I would also say there's got to be a natural progression to it.
Sure.
Like, and I think every man, depending on his previous experience that he had growing up, amount of pain he had growing up, or healthy family and upbringing, depending on those factors, he's going to have a different level of flame that needs to be extinguished. Right? So
that makes sense.
And I've seen both sides of the spectrum, but I think like that's generally the play. And the guys that are on the outside of both, outliers of both sides of that, typically I feel like it's there's something going on internally, in my opinion.
Okay. No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Who is a typical client you work with? You work with a lot of guys, but if you just took your average client, so it's like he's a 5 out of 10, he's like this build, this job, this issue, like what's the average guy you work with?
I'd say a man who's somewhere between a 6 and a 7. I mean, obviously there's outliers on both sides, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? But I'd say somewhere around there, and he's probably in his 30s. And then there's outliers in their late 20s and 40s, 50s. I even have a 62-year-old client right now. But typically it's around similar to me, right? I'm 35, so a lot of my following, it resonates with my age and my demographic. So it's like I'm not really with a bunch of extremely like very low social IQ men, although I have helped guys like that. But I would say generally it's like average dude who just doesn't have a dating life, really.
Do you notice that it's harder to help guys who maybe are like less physically attractive? So like if the guy's like a 2 versus a 5 versus a 10, is it get significantly harder? Or for guys, it's not that big a deal because girls, like they don't visualize maybe as hard as guys do?
I don't think they visualize as hard, but they do visualize.
Yeah.
And I think that's some kind of misconception that's in some of the industry.
Yeah, like they don't care at all.
Right. Yeah. I would say within 1 to 2 points. So like it just comes down to setting realistic expectations with a client, with any business. Like if you have a guy who's got shit social skills, horrible branding, and like doesn't know anything, he's gonna be like, well, can I make 100K in 8 weeks? So it's like, no, like, so just setting a realistic expectation from the jump about this is where you're at, not in a mean way, just, like just being real with the guy about this is where we're at. This is what we probably have access to right now. This is what the roadmap would look like. And for sure we can help you. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Do you find most men are kind of on point where, okay, I know I'm here, or they just, you're like, dude, you think you're here, but you're way over here?
I'd say most men do, but keep in mind, my business has been primarily organic, and I talk a lot about this philosophy in my content. So, if you're running paid ads and you had like an insane guarantee and offer, I mean, it might start to attract slightly more outliers, but I'm just very raw and real and authentic in the content. And I think that's a representation of the guys that I attract into my business, so.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your sales process, because this is also a money-making podcast. So if someone just want to know, how do you traditionally run your business? Is it just post content, they come in your DMs, you move from there? Like, what's a traditional sales cycle for you?
I would say primarily it's been long form content on YouTube with call to actions to book a call. They fill out an application, setter will call them, set them, closing call on Zoom.
Yeah. Man, dude, I think from our first interaction, it's been a few years. Like, you seem like you've really grown on social media.
Yeah.
Do you have a formula for that or any tips? Because I think you have 500,000 subs on YouTube. You got about 1 million on IG. I mean, it's pretty big. So you must have learned a couple things here and there of like what to do, maybe what not to do.
I'd say it depends on the platform. I did blow up on IG this year because I was able to find a trend with the POV glasses interactions, and then also take
those Facebook Meta ones, right?
Yeah, the Ray-Ban Metas. Yeah, so I was able to take I was able to take that window and that trend, which is still there. The window's still there, but really utilize that with my previous 5-6 years of experience of making content, and just kind of like put all that into the IG algorithm, and that really exploded. But
yeah, I love that.
I would say really though, my business is primarily off of YouTube. So to give you just some practical stuff, I think if I were to watch, because I actually help a decent amount of guys with their YouTubes and stuff like that, I would say really it comes down to having a really captivating hook in the video, and structuring out the video that's going to like lay out for the viewer what's going to happen at each point in this video, and then periodically throughout the video having consistent reminders of why they need to watch this video to the end. Because of the big juicy payoff that they're going to get at the end of the video, in order to maximize the viewer retention through the video. So big hook is what like captivates them, and then having some structure to the video, and then really having a big payoff, and ideally even having reminders throughout the video. Same concepts for short form as well. But yeah, I think men don't, not even just men, just people in general, they don't fully grasp that concept, and they just kind of dump the video, dump the value into the video, which is good, but more structure will hold them for a longer time, which will allow the videos to actually hit the KPIs they need to like go into the algorithm.
You pre-plan the video, right? Like you don't just start, riffing and turn on your camera. Like you've actually planned out or bullet
I've had different
pointed,
phases to my content creation journey, because at each phase, like, because keep in mind, I'm trying to grow a business simultaneously.
Right.
So there was a lot of times where it's like, okay, I actually need to put a lot more attention into fulfillment. I need to put more attention into filming these modules. I need to train a sales team. I need to monitor my coaches. I need to do all of these other elements. So I'm not just a content creator. If I was a full-time content creator, I'm just trying to blow up a YouTube channel, then 100% you should be scripting out, plotting out the whole thing, rehearsing the script, thinking about the thumbnail, the title, like the whole shebang, like really decking out the video.
Is there a reason you haven't done paid ads? Like, is
what I'm tapping into this year? Actually,
okay, you are trying to get more into
for sure.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I think it's safe to say I'm finally at a point where I wouldn't say my organics maxed out by any means, but I feel like I've really milked it, and it looks like we're on a good trajectory to hit about 200K organically per month.
That's awesome, dude.
So now, but that's only now that I actually built up a low ticket recurring that's doing about 85K.
That's good. Yeah, it's your school group, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's
so
awesome.
when the IG first went viral, all these new people came in, and that's when I started blasting the school group, because I saw a lane there. It used to just be a downsell for the high ticket. If you didn't come in, I wouldn't promote it publicly. Just on the calls, we would kind of like redirect you into this 97 a month. We built that up to 10K, and then I just felt like, there's a lot of my following that would probably be into this offer.
The high ticket.
There's always this debate about like high ticket, low ticket, and I would say it's dependent on the niche, I think, for sure. But for my industry, it definitely makes sense to have it, because a lot of the men out there, they don't have like-minded men that are also down to go work on the social skills or the self-development stuff. So like me having this community of 1,000 men, you come in, we have group chat set up for all the major cities. We could plug you in over there.
Oh, that's smart.
And so it's that plus my average customer life cycle. I don't know what the term is, but from the moment you meet me organically to the moment you actually want to invest in me, it takes a while to heat them up. Yeah. I've noticed. So I have guys that have been following me for 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, I think it's a good move for you. I think if you're getting a lot of traffic, it's better to have that. I think some people, if they just have no traffic and they go low ticket,
It's
it's
that's
a
not
little
the play.
riskier, right? Because they
No, that's
just have
very
no
risky.
traffic.
No, I wouldn't do that.
In terms of approaching girls, do you still get nervous, or is it just like you don't even feel it anymore because you've done it so much?
When I was like really blasting it, meaning like I broke up with my girlfriend in February, and then after like a couple months, we started going out to do it. I wasn't even really doing it for the dating aspect. I was just doing it like, let's go film the content.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like when you're doing it every day, like that 100 days in a row, I mean, it's at a point where, I mean, you actually get very picky after a certain point. If you're going up and talking to that many women, like I'm personally not into white women, and I like very like Hispanic or Middle Eastern type women. And also just talking to so many women. Yeah, I'm very particular. Like I know pretty much exactly the type of girl that I want to talk to. And so a lot of the girls we were going up to, like I wasn't even that excited about. I was like, okay, this could be cool content. You know, so I was just doing a lot of it. And then when you finally see a girl that you're genuinely excited about, yeah, it's actually kind of like a unique, exciting opportunity at that point. So it's if you're in rhythm and you're doing it consistently, yeah, for sure. Like you can get comfortable and confident doing it.
Yeah. It looks like this year you started taking your fitness like pretty seriously. What's your routine like right now? Because you look like you're in pretty good shape right now.
Yeah, I get up at 5:30 every day, go to the gym pretty much instantly, but I'd say within like 15, 20 minutes I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
My diet's very, very clean right now. This is probably the leanest I've ever gotten down to this year. I think at one point I was probably like sub 10%, and then body fat. And then, I mean, really it's just getting steps in and eating clean. It's nothing like crazy. I'm not on some like, Navy SEAL workout. It's just an hour long workout and like 15 to 20K steps. Eat clean.
It's usually simpler than most people think, right?
Yeah.
What's probably the biggest advice you give guys in general that they can do to level up? So, you're saying with a guy, obviously there's a million things they could do, but are there like some basic top 3, top 5 things they can do to just level up and make themselves more attractive and build more abundance in their life?
Depends on where the guy's at, right? And I think that's where the coaching actually does come into play, because it's like so many men need a different tweak in a different direction. And if it was just everyone needs to do this one thing, like you just do this thing. But I mean, in general, if I were to just look at my average clients or just guys in general, I think everybody could be in a better physique, right? That doesn't take much to eat less and work out more. Like that's something very simple. Take care of your physique, dress better, and then really push the social skills. Like that's my main philosophy, is that most people don't have the social confidence. And it's not just, you don't need to run around Brickell like in the daytime, just going up to hundreds of girls on the street. Like that's not what it's about, but you need to get experience interacting with women. And depending on where you live, that could be done in a variety of different ways. Could be done going up in the street. It could be done from online dating. It could be done at nighttime. It could be done from social circle. It could be done at meetups and classes, and just really depends on what you have accessible to you.
Do you think someone could get those skills from doing, let's say, door-to-door sales, or does it actually have to be women?
That would create a good foundation. The same way like doing wrestling might be a good foundation if you were going to go into another fighting thing later on, or like bodybuilding or something. But I don't think that alone, that will teach you structure to conversation and frame control and facing your fear, going up to a stranger, which are a lot of similar things, but you still need to understand the technicalities around, I guess, male to female conversation and creating attraction, and just slightly different elements to it.
Yeah.
But again, good foundational piece, I would say.
Do you have any non-negotiables that, I will not do this anymore, I will not do that anymore, I must do this, that have like impacted your life?
So this is the first year I actually went fully sober.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's probably been like 280 days.
Good for you, man.
No nicotine, no alcohol, no weed, no porn, like none of that stuff. So
what was the reason behind it?
It was partially influenced by the breakup initially. I think it wasn't like the moment we broke up that happened. And that there's a whole backstory to that conversation too. But yeah, I guess moving to Miami, and after we broke up, I probably spent another month or two going out and partying and like just having more casual relationships and stuff. And I think after doing that for a month or two, I was like, okay, I need to actually like just focus on me, get my business dialed, get my health dialed, get all these other things. Not that I was bad. I was never like, really bad with it. I'm still running like a 6-figure business, 7-figure business, but yeah, it just needed to be dialed in even more.
Your fitness looks like it took off. Like I was watching your stories, and I think there was some before picture I saw. You didn't look bad, like you said, but it was just like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And then like you got pretty dialed in.
Yeah.
It seems like every time maybe you have a breakup, that's the thing you need to kind of push you.
I mean, the breakup for a lot of men can be the catalyst for, like, it could be a very fueling, motivating experience where they go up. But I also see some men that just kind of go down in that time too. So it's okay to sit in the pain. I think learn from the experience and go through that period. But yeah, post breakup is definitely a very motivating time for most men, I would say.
Yeah. The guys you work with, when they come in, what are some of the things you like? How do you work with them? Like for people listening, I'm kind of curious. Is it just Zoom? Is it one-on-one? Do you have them approach women? Like, do you kind of have like a little bit of like a trajectory or a path that they go on that's similar?
Yeah, we'll do the whole thing. It just, again, it depends on the man and what he has access to and what his lifestyle and schedule is like and what environment he's in. Because depending on those things, we have different opportunities.
Got it.
And some men want to primarily focus on online. I'd say most men want social confidence and they don't want to be out at the clubs all night. And so doing some sort of daytime interaction makes sense for most men. Yeah. And so we'll help you with your online dating profile. We'll evaluate your pictures. We'll set up a photo shoot. We'll help you with your grooming, your posing, your outfits. Like, we'll get you fully ready to do a photo shoot and coach you through that if that's what you want to tap into. And then also we'll actually just baby step you through the in-person interaction. Yeah. That's through one-on-one coaching. That's also done live in-field one-on-one coaching, even on Zoom. We'll have you out in the field while you're on Zoom with the coach, one-on-one with a headphone in your ear. And we'll literally just kind of push you through social interaction.
What's the best way to run a dating profile? Like, are there any tips on like this type of picture, not these types of picture, do this?
I mean, there's so many good examples online of high quality photos, and the further we get with the technology, it's like it's not even that hard at this point, man. Find somebody that has a DSLR camera, get some good outfits. Really, it's about not looking super stiff and awkward. Like, you need to be able to display confidence and charm, I think, like with your facial expressions, with a good outfit, with good quality, with a good quality camera.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's like subtleties to it, but I primarily focus on the in-person stuff because that's really what changed my life. And I just think that social interaction and social confidence has so much more benefit other than just you meeting a girl. Like, that is one part of it, but I would attribute my entire business, the confidence that I have to even get on camera, to run sales calls, to coach men, like all of that was cultivated for me personally through putting myself out there and building up social confidence. So yes, it is really life-changing in terms of your dating life, but for me, it was like so much more than that. And I think that's why I'm such a big believer in it.
Do you have any mentors or books that you
yeah.
read, like mentors you look up to, or either like, hey, read this book, or this book really impacted my life?
Yeah, I mean, I've hired so many mentors over the years. I've probably spent, I don't even know at this point, over $300K on coaching.
Good amount.
It's funny, actually. I applied to work with you when I was literally living in my mom's basement. I did not understand business, like zero. Yeah. I didn't even know. I didn't get into this like, I'm going to be a coach and make money. I was just like, I transformed my life. I want to help other people. I assisted for another coach who fired me over something that was out of my hands. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to start my own channel. Yeah. So I started putting out content, and I studied all these other coaches that were popular back then. And I knew what was in all their paid programs. So I just started putting out the value online. And after about a year and a half, the channel started to take off. So I had business coaches reaching out to me. They're like, you got 50,000 subscribers. Like, are you making 100K a month yet? And I was like, no, I don't even have an offer. Like, I was just literally my call to actions were, click down below for a free coaching call. And it wasn't a consultation call. It was a free coaching call. Actually free. There was no sale. There was no pitch. There was no upsell, like nothing.
It's really like, free, guys. Like, no, it's like, actually free.
It's literally free.
There's no pitch.
No, like no pitch. And because I just wanted to help people, like literally. And then
that's awesome, man.
And then the first guy I got on with at the end of the call, he's like, what's your Venmo? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I got to pay you for this, bro. And then so he sent me $60, and I was driving around doing delivery at the time. And I made like double my pay for the day. I was like, what? Wait, something's like going on here. And then I still just didn't understand anything about sales. So I then just created a Patreon. I charged a $1 a month subscription-based service. 600 people came in the first month. And I was like, maybe I could bump this up to 5. And I bumped it up to 5. And then like 6 months into that, I built it up to like 2K, 3K, 4K recurring.
Yeah.
And I was only making 3K. I was like 30 years old in my mom's basement, smoking weed, doing pizza delivery. Like, and I had just doubled my salary. So I was like, this is crazy. And that's when I started thinking about coaching, because so many of these business coaches were like, you could make money off of this.
Yeah.
You should do this, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, let me just apply it. And then your ad probably popped up somewhere. So I filled out an application. I got on a what I thought was a free call. Turns out it was, because I'm out here giving out free calls, you know? So like, I just answer the phone. I'm going back and forth with this guy. He's getting me all excited. At the end of it, he was like, that's going to be $8,000. And I remember I only had 10K in my bank account, and it took me that whole time to build up to 10K. And I was like, this guy wants to take all my money. No fucking way. I was like, no. So I didn't do it. I got scared off from, it's crazy because like that probably, had I have invested at that time, that would have been life-changing for me. But I just couldn't pull the trigger on it because I was so closed-minded about money and investing and stuff.
Yeah, I understand. Of course, bro.
So long story short, I built up the recurring Patreon up to like 12K a month over a year, stacked all the money. And then once I broke 100K, I was like, okay, now I'll shell out like 15K for a business coach. Because I was so afraid to go back under 100K. And then I learned high ticket sales in the beginning of 2021. Then I built up my business through 2021 up to like 50K, 60K. But there was a whole sales team, and the whole thing was just sloppy and overexpensed. And then I actually went back and rehired you. I mean, we didn't talk directly, but I hired your team. And then I was working with some guy, Ross. Yeah. And then he was like, "Oh, you got to change your offer. You got to raise the price." And then so like I learned from your team, I should be charging even more. So I raised my price point up. And then, I mean, there's a whole story from 2022 to 2023 to 2024, but just constantly dialing in the sales process, hiring closers, firing, over-expensing in the company, hiring coaches, going low ticket, then to high ticket, then back to the low ticket. And now I built up the low ticket, and now we're going back to doing both simultaneously. It's been a crazy ride, honestly.
Bro, that's pretty cool to hear though. Like, cause you say you're 35 now, that started when you're 30. So
yeah,
I'll
be 35 in April. Yeah.
I think it's cool just to even see, someone who might think they're like have a late start, or they didn't start when they're 20 or 18. Right. And it's like at 30 to 35, like your life's very different now. Yeah. Insanely different.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most common challenge you or your team like might face on a day-to-day basis from the business side, right? Because you're obviously a business owner, you're a creator as well, but you're really a business owner. And so like, what's the most frequent or common challenge you deal with?
I don't know if there's been one recurring challenge. Like I was saying earlier in this talk, that I feel like my attention needs to go into different areas throughout the year, because it's like I'll build something up which creates a new problem somewhere else in the funnel, and then my attention goes to there, and then that will create a new problem somewhere else in the, not necessarily problem, but it's like if you put all your attention into lead flow, great. But then it's like, okay, now my attention needs to go into sales calls. And then once I'm doing all of these sales calls, great. But now the new missing piece is really the systems that weren't in place for the coaches and the fulfillment. And then so the attention goes into the fulfillment and tightening up the fulfillment. And it's like, I feel like I'm building. And then as you get to a new level, you got to like kind of go back and strengthen the infrastructure to then allow you to go to a slightly higher level. And I've been kind of doing a lot of it blind through trial and error, which it's been a frustrating process over the years, but I don't necessarily regret any of it, because I've had to learn all of these different elements to be able to have them all under control before you could truly delegate them out. Mm-hmm. And nobody was really telling me that whole process. So I delegated it out. Then it was trash. And then I needed to go in and learn it. And then I had to build that up. And then you could then kind of delegate it to create a system in place. And then you move on to the next thing. And so, man, it's crazy, because it's like I got into all of this just because I just made a transformation. I want to help people. But it's like, 6 years later, it's like, well, yeah, I also had to learn like content creation and like actually going viral strategically, and then how to be a leader within the company to train coaches, and then really mastering sales consultations and like how to run closing calls and how to train your setter and how to create a community in place and how to keep the retention high in the low ticket. It's like, there's so much that goes into all of these different elements. And I mean, I love it. I love all of it, but it goes way beyond, let me just turn on a camera and put out the content. That's where it starts, but it's like, you know, the journey takes you into these other directions. I'm sure you've encountered a lot of this stuff.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. What are some of the, you would say, key skills or knowledge that people need to learn to have success in your industry over the next few years, right? Some of your biggest lessons.
I think the one skill set that I'm, I guess, the most proud of is the ability to, well, first off, like just never give up, because as long as you can stay consistent, you'll find a way. And the people that don't make it, they just give up too quick. That's really what it is. But being able to be open-minded enough to consistently be learning from other people, not afraid to fail, put something into practice, and then adjust and evaluate as you're kind of moving through it. So many people that want to build a business or start a channel or start content or start sales, I think they're so over analytical from the jump that they never go into it enough. It's really the same thing with dating. I just tell guys, like, how many girls did you actually talk to this week, dude? Like, if the answer is like, you know, less than 3 or 5, like very low likelihood of success. I've just been resilient and adaptive and consistent enough. And I think if you could have those qualities, like, you will inevitably get success.
What helped you stay resilient? Because I agree with that. I think I would say that that's the biggest thing is if you keep trying, no matter what it is, eventually you'll get there. And maybe it takes longer than you want, but a lot of people do quit before. For you, what's helped you stay resilient when things don't go your way, or you have a bad day, or you're not feeling good, but you keep going?
That trait, in my opinion, was learned through cold approach and social confidence. Like, the same journey that I'm going through in my business, like, I started out extremely unconfident. And so I had to learn the first couple of steps of like, okay, this is how you could talk to people and just socialize. And then if you get rejected, it's okay. And then, like, you could get better with the skill set. And then you practice that. And I hired a coach and he taught me a little bit. So, like, me learning that process over 2 or 3 years, I guess it got me into the right headspace about, like, realistically, this is what a timeline looks like for success. And then the other element of it is constantly either being around or seeing people that you know accomplish the thing. Before I ever started my own channel, I was too afraid to start my own channel. That's why I applied to work for another company and they hired me as an intern. I started shadowing their coaches. When I was shadowing their coaches, I was like, I could do this. That was reassurance for me. I wanted to grow within that company, but once they fired me, I was a little bit more confident that I could do it then. And so that's what got me off the ground to start the channel. And then every single year, I'm hiring mentors and trying to be around other people that are already accomplishing the thing. And so most people, they don't believe that they could do it. If they knew somebody that lived in their area that was doing it and they hung around that person, they would for sure do it. Like, it's really that simple. Anybody that's trying to think about building a business, if you hung around other people that were doing that thing, it would give you and you communicated with them, and maybe even somebody above you that could, like, guide you through that. If you have that piece in place, I think that's so much reassurance that you're not this random person. Like, it can happen for anybody if you really just stick to that. But seeing the evidence is, like, for me, that's what always kept me going, I think.
What's a question that maybe I should have asked you that I didn't that would help a lot of people?
I think a lot of people that get into content creation think that organic is the way. And I don't necessarily think that it is the way. I just didn't get into this because of business. I got into this because I was passionate about this. And so I just wanted to put the content out there. Like, this is arguably not the most effective route, although I did make it happen and I'm still continuing to grow it. Like, really the goal is to now transition into paid ads. But I mean, everybody else I see that's hyper successful, like, it seems like they crack paid ads and now they've got this business and now they're like, okay, let me, like, kind of stack on the organic on top.
Usually.
Right.
Yeah, like, I feel like what you did is actually harder.
Right, exactly. So I think you need to just look into your industry and see what other people are doing and just be open-minded that it doesn't necessarily need to be organic. And my story, I think, might not have been the best route. And I think if a lot of people actually could, like, put themselves in my body and see the whole path I went down, they would have been like, fuck that. Because it was a lot. It was a lot that I've gone through. But at the same time, just to make the counter argument, making it through that makes you extremely resilient. And now it's like I have all the confidence that anything is possible. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily like a question you could have asked to kind of pull that out of me. I just wanted to give a disclaimer that like, yeah, I think organic is great and it's cool to go viral and all this stuff. And it's cool to have millions of views and people recognize you and stuff. But like a lot of that doesn't even equate to money or anything really. It could even be more frustrating getting lost in view counts and comments and hate and all of this stuff versus like the paid side is like you could just kind of look at the KPIs and look at it more strategically and kind of just have hyper focus on the business, So pros and cons to both. And I think like long term, the highest levels, you're probably going to want to tap into both. But for anybody that's trying to start a business and is thinking about where am I going to go with it, I'd say content is probably the longer play if you really haven't gotten anything going. So just be aware of that.
I'd agree with that 100%. I think that's cool to hear from a guy who's really done well organically, because I'll tell most people, I say, look, that's a harder, longer path.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to make money quicker, that is not the quickest way. I do think long term, if hey, are you going to stay in the game 5-10 years? It's just most people, they can't wait 5 or 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I agree 100% with what you said. Kyle, if people are trying to work with you or they want to find out more about you, where's the best place they can go?
You could just YouTube Coach Kyle or Instagram Kyle Froonjian. You could DM me. Probably put a link below this video if you want to like check that stuff out. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the pod. Appreciate you.
For sure, my man.
Cool.